Yeah.
Well, that leads us to, right to Michael Crowitz, who is going to ask our next question because it leads and kind of stacks on what we're just talking about. Michael Crowitz.
Thanks, Etienne. It's great to see you, Carl, and thank you so much for sharing some time with us. The question is really short, so I'm going to actually make it a little longer. How can a state use exemption to remove itself from federal law? The thing about your work on exemption that I find fascinating is my work on international stuff really revolved around one sentence in our Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, and one little paragraph in the Controlled Substances Act. And when you were saying something along the lines of, when they send us back from the court saying that we haven't exhausted all our non-judicial, administrative remedies, these are the remedies they're talking about, these little paragraphs in the CSA. And what baffles me is that you could be working on this little paragraph in the CSA and that the movement for the last 50 years or 60 years with all these legal eyes has missed it. And also,
21 USC 822D. Yeah.
And I also want you to tell us, if you could, wrap up a little bit about where this work is. Like, how many states have put in
okay, good. Yeah.
Proper applications, where those applications.
A friend of mine wanted that question to be asked and wanted me to answer that question. So that's good. I have a friend in Hawaii who's a doctor, and he's been working on this. And so anyway, yeah, Hawaii passed a resolution, unanimous in the House and Senate, to have their Department of Health investigate this exemption argument. And the Department of Health in Hawaii responded by saying, we're ashamed of our state and we don't want to draw any attention to ourselves, so we're not doing it, because it didn't have any mandate that the department do anything. It simply told them to check it out. So they checked it out and said, we're too ashamed to even bring this up, so we're not going to do anything. So now they're stuck, and they're going to have to get a law and signed by their governor to force the state to apply. But it did get passed unanimous in the House and Senate. In Minnesota, it went quite a ways in their health bill last year and this year, but it didn't make the final cut. But it was kicked around by the bill to apply for the exemption was introduced by the two co-chairs of their medical cannabis board, who are legislators. They have a different kind of a composition board than what we have here in Iowa. Our board here in Iowa is strictly medical professionals, and my experience working with Al with the pharmacy board here led me to believe that that was the best audience that I could find, is medical professionals. And so I went to them feeling confident that medical professionals would understand what I'm talking about, because they know about red tape and federal regulations, and especially people that are really deep into the medical profession. And sure enough, they understood it right away, and they agreed with me. One of them gave me $100 to help sue the governor last year. And that's the one that contacted you, Al, and said he wants to join your group. So I'm hijacking the medical board. I mean, the board that regulates our cannabis program here is co-petitioners and activists. Yeah.
Well, hijack accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Michael,
so that was Michael's question about if other states have picked up on this. So yeah, 2 states have picked up on it, but I know people really well in those 2 states. Like the doctor in Hawaii, his attorney is the son of one of the people in this Coptic church. So like, isn't that a coincidence? And the guy in Minnesota, he gave me, like, him and Randy Quaid, who was the chair of the normal board, gave me $2,000 back in 2013 to file a separate appeal in the case Michael was in, our scheduling case that we had, the Coalition for Cannabis Scheduling. I tried to argue that state law was accepted medical use, that you couldn't get any more accepted than a state law, that medical opinion was nowhere near as significant as a state law. That establishes medical use beyond any reasonable doubt. And so that was the argument I made in Michael's case, but I made it in 2010, and we all filed that in 2002. And so by the time I was bringing this argument into it, the DEA had already gotten the decision from the FDA, and the case, I was too late to make that argument. But anyway, so the guy in Minnesota has been working with me for a long time, and the one in Hawaii. So